How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I've got you on the workbench right now. This is the start of a 2-day build video. I'm waiting on a couple things from Amazon to arrive tomorrow. Today's Saturday, so this video is probably going to go up on Monday, unfortunately. So I'm sorry for a little bit later of an upload. But if you guys watched the last video, and if you haven't, it is up here in the right-hand corner. You can check out the air intake install video, the AEM cold air intake that I picked up. I drove the car around a few times since then. I love the sound. I don't really know if it does much, but I like the sound of it. A lot of you had some questions, and I couldn't respond to everyone because there was a lot of repetitive ones, and I figured I would just address them in this video right now. Number one, water hitting the filter or going through a big puddle. So I have been driving with a cold air intake on every single one of my cars, and I have hydro-locked a car before with a cold air intake, and I understand what happens. I understand the consequences. I want you guys to understand that essentially once this car gets the 2.5 swap in it, and with all this quarantine stuff going on right now, I'm getting very close to getting a second car that will be a daily driver. So once this car has the 2.5 and everything, it's probably not ever going to see rain very much ever again. So I understand your concerns. I'm well aware of the consequences, and I'm not super worried about it because I'm not gonna let anything bad happen. So don't worry there. Secondly, I understand the lighting is bad. I have to back into the garage because I can't go in front facing forward. I have to back in. I'm working on a lighting solution for the front of the garage, like over there, because it's a dungeon. It's a dungeon in here. Like this light alone, if I can show you, the difference between, like, this is what you guys used to watch videos on, with just these two lights. Ever since I got this light, it has been so much better to work out in here. But I need some more working lights to go towards the front of the garage, and I'm well aware of that. So you don't have to tell me today when I go show you some stuff in the front of the engine without a light. But I'm gonna try to put a light up there so you guys can see it when we do get to the install. But this first part of the video, it might be a little dark, so just FYI. Anyways, moving on. So the thing I needed to address in this video is we need to make an ECU cover plate. You get this big box from your stock unit, and this part right here is what covers up your ECU. And I mean, it's just basically a plastic cover, so we're gonna replace it with a plastic cover. On Amazon, I picked up a piece of 1/16 inch, I think, or 1/8 inch. This is 1/8 inch ABS plastic, textured on one side and glossy on the other. I think I want the textured side facing up. So what we're gonna be doing in this first part of the video, we are going to make the template for this. I'm gonna cut it out, test fit it, make sure all the holes are where they need to be, and then we can wait for tomorrow when we get the hardware in. I'll show you the hardware and then how we install this into the car and where it goes and what it does. So I'm gonna spin you around. I'm gonna show you where the ECU is in the car, and then we'll hop back to the tool bench and start cutting. Okay, so here is the intake right here. All I've got is this little flashlight right here for right now. So bear with me. Here's the intake. It's all held together just fine. Everything's been working as it should have, no codes, anything like that. That's not what this video is about. This video is about covering up this. Right here is a ECU for your car. You can see there's wires, things are exposed, and you really don't want to get this super wet. Most of you guys know I have the hood vents, so water is going to come in here, and always has. I've never had an issue with it, but I would like to offer the ECU some protection. So what you can do is take one of the bolts out of the power steering tank, and you can add another bolt. It's hard. It's not a bolt, but it's threaded rod. I'll show you that when I have the hardware in. And we're essentially just going to make a little cover for the ECU out of the ABS plastic. This is not going to be a how-to on how to make one of these. This is going to be a how I do it. The DIY I'm following is down in the description below. It is linked on Miata.net. There's a guy on there who gave instructions on how to cut it, at least the dimensions of it, with the materials you'll need. He wasn't specific on the materials you'll need, and I don't know if that's because he does sell these as well. So I think out of protection for him, because I'm assuming that he doesn't want everyone to just make these, and if you want to buy one from him, you can buy one from him. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what bolt size you need. I'm going to tell you what bolts to get, or at least what you can match them up to, so take that as you will. But for his, protection, obviously, if you want to buy one from him, you can buy one. I know Dave Fab also sells one that looks really nice, but that's based in the UK, and that would be a few weeks out, and I'm a DIY kind of person, as you guys know, so we're going to do it ourselves. So I'm going to spin you around, let's jump down, and we'll get to measuring. Here is the photo that I'm following. It's basically got some measurements on the piece, and it's a rough. It'll be hard to do, but I think we're going to be able to do it. I'm just going to follow this, make some markings and measurements on my plastic, and then we'll just have to kind of cut and test from there. I got 2 of these pieces of ABS plastic, so hopefully I don't mess one up. Good one. If I do, I have an extra one. So let's get to writing down our measurements, and then we can hopefully start cutting. All right, well, hopefully this lighting setup is a little bit better for you guys. I know I can see much better. I'll take our piece, and I think we might have to take the intake off for this. So now you can see this a little bit better with the intake off. So this is supposed to fit, this hole right here is supposed to fit with a hole right down there. And this is supposed to sit like that, I believe. And it's just too long. I'm gonna go back and look at the photo. All right, guys, well, you wanna know why it doesn't fit? It's because I am really glad I bought 2, because I absolutely messed this up on the first try. So it's supposed to go this way, and you'll notice that it fits much better this way. Obviously the cuts are wrong, but this is the way it's supposed to go. So I absolutely messed up the first time. So I'm gonna redo it. I'm gonna have to make another one, which isn't a huge deal. At least I've got these sides cut out. So as long as I get the screws lined up, I can just put these on each corner and trace them out and recut. But that sucks. All right, well, I'm gonna go make a new one of these, and then I'll be back and we'll see if it fits. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn my microphone on in this moment, but I recut the new piece and it fits in a lot nicer. There's a few little areas right around here that are touching the cable, so I ended up trimming that just a tiny little bit more. Basically flipped the width and length on the first one, and that's why it was bad. What ended up happening was I had a little mistake as far as the holes go. So I thought I followed the instructions perfectly, and I know I measured it correctly, but it still ended up not being in the right place. This one's fine. This one was just not quite where it needed to be. So I you know, I drilled a couple extra holes. I filled the holes, and then I did a little spray paint over it. So I'm hoping that the glossiness kind of goes down a little bit, but once it's in the engine bay, it's pretty hard to tell, like from certain angles. Like right there, it doesn't look too bad, but right there, it's kind of weird looking. Anyways, a while back, I didn't make a video on this, but I retrimmed my hood vents with some new rubber like molding, like door molding. And I thought it'd be really nice to put a layer of it around the edges of this to clean things up a little bit, so you can kind of see how that might look right there. It's a nice little texture as well, and it should fit just fine. So with that, I should have enough to go all the way around. So I'm going to put a layer of trim all the way around this, and then we'll see how it looks. This stuff is really hard to get on, but I think it's because the plastic's a little thick. It's thicker than the metal on the hood, but it'll be sturdy, so that's kind of how it'll look. I think it's gonna look pretty nice once I get it all the way around. This trim is really nice, by the way. If you do have hood vents and you're looking to do a little retrim, it's thicker than the stuff that comes with the hood vents, and it's got like metal in it, so it really like grips onto it, and you can form it really nicely, and I think it looks good. I like the textured look. So, all right, instead of a time lapse, I'm just going to get all of this around, and then we'll jump back so you don't have to watch me do the entire thing. Here is the finished product with the rubber molding around the edges. I really like the look. I think it looks a lot cleaner, makes it look a little bit nicer. And I think if anything, it'll help to catch any water that does get in here, and help keep it out from around the edges. And this is a super simple thing to do. If you are making one of these and you want it to look like this, it's just this rubber molding. All the links for the things that I used for this were ordered off of Amazon, and they're gonna be down below. If you purchase those things from those links, Amazon sends me a little bit of money each month, depending on how much you order. So thank you to everyone who has ordered through those links. It definitely helps out. So let's go take this over to the car. Throwing it in right here. So that's kind of how it's going to look. I'm really happy with that. I think it looks really cool. I'm glad I put the little rubber molding around it. I think it just looks a little bit nicer. So essentially it is just going to sit just like that in there with the intake over it. I think that looks good. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. All the holes should be lined up. So now I just need to wait for the hardware to come in. I'll show you that in just a second. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow, which is still today in this video. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so scratch the time card. Amazon actually showed up this evening and dropped off the other things that I needed. So I'm gonna spin you around and show you all the hardware that we're gonna be using to attach the ECU cover plate. Okay, so here's the bolt that you're gonna be removing from the power steering reservoir. These are 2 boxes. Go ahead and read what you wanna read. Again, I'm not gonna say exactly how to do this out of respect for the person who wrote and produces these little DIY kits. I've got a set of lock nuts and a set of like regular hex nuts with the little flange on the bottom. You can get regular ones if you want to use washers. I just got these because I knew I had washers, and if I needed one, I could use one. If not, then these little locking tabs will be fine. And then I also got a set of threaded rod in, I think, 150 millimeter length. And these will be kind of our scaffolding for the ECU cover. So I'm gonna set this up. You gotta do a few things first and then do some final adjustments in the engine bay. But we only need 2 of these. So I'm gonna take my 2 and then we will set up the nuts on them and then jump down to the engine bay. 2 of our threaded rods are set up. I did one of the nylon hex nuts at the bottom. Both have a washer, and then I used these little, I had these washers that have little foam on the bottom just so there's a little bit of like
wiggle room, a little bit of buffer room. And then on one of them, you need to take your regular hex nut, bring it way down. And then on the other one, you leave it kind of at the top. And then after that, you're gonna take 2 more. And so basically your ECU plate is gonna go here and here, and it's gonna sit on these 2 things, and then you're gonna tighten it down using these 2 top ones. These bottom ones are gonna act as a bolt, and you can tighten them down. So we'll go to the engine bay. We're gonna start test fitting. We're probably gonna have to do some cutting because these are too long. This one is definitely too long, and then we'll go from there. The first thing we wanna do is we need to remove this little ground cable from the ECU bracket. Use that with a 10mm, but we are gonna leave that there, so keep that in mind. And then next, we're gonna take our threaded rod with the shorter gap, and we are just going to screw it right in to that spot. And once you get it down there, you can take a little wrench, tighten this up. And it does. Just tighten that down. So now you can take your ECU cover plate, fit it over the bolt holes, like that. Press it below your intake. So you can see mine's a little crooked, so both of my nuts need to come down on both sides. It's close, but they could definitely come down more. So all you have to do is take it off. Then take your hex nuts that are below, just drop it down. All right, so I've got the nuts down to where I want them to be. Everything is sitting on the plastic like I wanted it to. It's very down and like it's making contact with the bolts. So now what we can do is we need to take our nuts that are for the top and thread these all the way down until it's tight against the plastic. And then what we'll have to do is you can do this with, I have a Dremel, so it'll be easier for me to do it. If you have a hacksaw, you can do it with a hacksaw too, but you'll have to take these back out. I'm going to thread them down, tighten them up, and then just cut the tops of the threaded rod off so everything sits very nicely. So I'm gonna go grab my nuts, tighten them down, and then we'll get to cutting. All right, so these are down. It's like really secure on there. This will act as a really good barrier. It'll definitely stop any water from hitting the ECU directly from the hood vents. So now I just need to take my Dremel, take my metal cutting wheel, and cut off the top of each rod. All right, guys, and that is basically it. So I've got the threaded rods cut down. Everything is on there securely. And this will just sit here for as long as it lasts. The rubber should last a while. No plastic is touching any of the rubber hoses, which I'm really glad I did that, because there's things like right here and up here where the plastic would make contact with other rubber, and I'm worried that over time it could corrode it or something. So I'm glad I did the rubber trim. You don't have to, but just maybe cut it a little smaller so nothing contacts. But this should be good. This should keep the ECU nice and dry and at least keep large amounts of water off of it when it's raining really hard if I drive this car in the rain. So I'm gonna throw the intake back on and I'll show you the final product and then we can wrap this video up. All right, intake is back in, and I think it really complements this area now. It doesn't look so open, and you can't see like the ECU or anything. It really looks like it's supposed to be there, and it's a nice DIY complement to the engine bay. It was kind of annoying to make, I won't lie. Granted, the instructions weren't perfect, so if you do this yourself, buy a couple of these ABS plastic sheets and just, you know, feel free to make mistakes to get it to fit as best you can. I wish I had one more sheet. I would have tried to make this top part a little bit better, but otherwise I'm happy with the way it came out. So it's not too bad. I like it. And it's protective, so I feel like I can go drive this around now and not feel bad about the ECU getting like water damage or something like that. So that is gonna be it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you are new to the channel, be sure you go down below and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments. Let me know if you do the ECU cover plate. Tell me how it goes for you. I'd love to hear, considering that everyone's project is gonna be a little different. And stay tuned because I've got some super cool stuff to show you next week that's on order. It should be here this week and I am absolutely excited for it. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next video.